My question will be very specific. There's been an issue of reparations for slavery and crimes that were committed during colonial and post and apartheid period. I just wanted to find out, during your tenure as the AU chairperson, how did you deal with the issue of reparations, particularly to try and deal with challenges, developmental challenges that the continent is facing, and the fact that the continent does not have the money capital to advance the developmental agenda of the continent? And second to that, you spoke about skills development, skills shortage. During your forums with the African diaspora, have the AU perhaps committed itself in towards the recruitment or trying to recruit the African diaspora? Because most of our African diaspora, they have the necessary skill, and I should believe that the skill that they possess could somehow be used towards the developmental project of the continent. If I may be allowed one last question.
Please switch off your mic. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. My name is Pelele. My question is directed to Dr. Sibakhulu Nxamalala. The theme today is human rights, education, business, and entrepreneur. In your present, I can also add that. I can also add a president of a former government official into the team. So if I were to categorize those, human rights will fall under social. Education, I can slice it to social and also economics. Business and universities fall under economics. And your president as a government official, they will fall under politics. So in order to have...
Excuse me, please, may you get to your question? Thank you.
Okay. So my question is that in order to have an effective society, we need the interaction of politics, social, and economic. And those are defined as governance. So my question is that in your perspective, can you please conceptualize what is good governance? And do we as South Africans, as South Africa, have good governance? Because currently there is a team that our government must start to govern. Otherwise, people are losing trust.
Thank you very much.
My name is Sianda Mgati. I'm the coordinator of the NC Youth League on campus. Now, Dr. Nkosazana, I think we've been fed propaganda that there is no skill capacity in this country. I am a scientist. I have a master's degree in geophysics. Now, I got employed by an asset manager which deals with finance and investments. And that's where most our scientists and engineers are concentrated, in banks and these financial institutions. Let me tell you why that's the case. It's because in hard science and innovation, you don't look to us. You go and consult French and Russians on whoever that you think they have capacity to develop and innovate in science and technology sectors. So do not come here and say there's no capacity. We can go fetch them in the banks. They are not taken serious. So I think that there is capacity and skills. Now let me go to metals and mining. I was looking at the discussion document of the ANC about economic transformation. Now, the ANC speaks about lengthening the life of mine. It speaks about using efficient energy and also water. Now, what the discussion document fails to capture is the question of energy as the center for economic growth. Now, if we are going to grow any economy, if we are going to expand business, we ought to have access in terms of energy capacity, and it must be very cheap. Now, how do we do that? We concentrate on our energy mix, which needs, in my own opinion, also, you need to have nuclear. We cannot be over-reliant on coal. We need renewables, we need nuclear.
That you conclude.
Okay, it's just a comment.
Request that you conclude your comment.
Oh, okay. So, with that question, I'm asking you, what is your opinion in terms of further including nuclear in the energy mix? And my own opinion is that we don't need nuclear. Perhaps we need to build it in phases because we already have nuclear capacity in Quebec. We have black professionals who have capacity and skills, who have been trained all over the world, which I know some who are in nuclear already. So that's...
Thank you.
Thank you very much. My name is Dineo Setole from the Young Communist League of South Africa. What I'd like to ask you, and thank you very much for a very insightful input. I'm very interested, my big question is just, what are your views on us changing or looking at parts of the constitution that are unfair to the working class to date in South Africa? This speaks particularly to the issues of workers. As we know right now, labor brokering, according to the constitution, is supported because it allows for free trade. And that means that labor brokering can happen. And as young people who want to get into this market or even want to have SMMEs, we are put in a position where we are in this really major ill of labor brokering. I mean, the Constitution supports this. And of course, the Constitution, when it comes back and speaking about the issues of land, the Constitution says that the people that stole land from 1913. And the reality of people that stole land is that they started stealing land from 1652. And even prior to that, to a certain degree. So our relation to the Constitution right now, in the way that it is allowing for monopoly capital to be protected. And this is something that we cannot agree with. So what are your views, Ma, on this and us being able to deal with this? What do you think, even for us as young people who are involved and who want to be active in changing the country, the steps that we should take towards this?
Okay. Maybe I'll just start with the last question, because I think somebody had also asked a similar question and I missed. You know, constitutions are made to create a particular life for people in that country. And if constitutions are made at a particular point in time, and you find that in applying that constitution, there are problems, you amend the constitution. So every country does that. So in South Africa, where we feel that now this part, whether it's on land or on what, is not actually assisting us to achieve what needs to be achieved, it means it needs to be amended. But of course, to amend the constitution in this country, you need to get 66 and two-thirds of the parliamentarians to vote for an amendment. And therefore, if you want to do that, you have to convince, we have to convince that number of parliamentarians to vote for an amendment. And it means we must be clear about lobbying society, talking to society, showing why it's useful, and therefore, because those parliamentarians represent society. So I think for me, it's not a problem of the Constitution, because we need to look, it is a problem of the Constitution, but it can be amended. It's a problem of whether at this point in time you can get that two-thirds majority. I don't know whether at this point in time we can get the two-thirds majority. And having got the two-thirds majority, whether, because the courts seem to be governing as well, whether that matter will not then be taken to court, but I think even if it is, if it's amended by a two-thirds majority of parliamentarians, if the courts look at the separation of powers, it should be able to pass. So that's my view. So we need to get the numbers that we need to be able to change. And the constitution, sometimes it's misused. I remember when I was Minister of Health trying to stop smoking in public areas, we started by banning advertising. And there was delegation after delegation, even from our people that I will not name, saying that this is against free speech. Advertising is, if I'm banning advertising, I'm against the constitution, I'm against the human rights, the rights. So it was a big issue, but if you get your story right, and they took us to court even then, but we won. In the end, we were able to do it. So sometimes the constitution is just misused because it cannot be that people can advertise things that are dangerous and you say the constitution allows free speech. So, and then going to the energy question, the policy of this country, ever since I've known it, has always been that we need a mix. And nuclear is already in the mix. So it's not like we are saying, can we use nuclear? Nuclear, Quebec is nuclear. So it's a mix from coal to everything. That's my view. And in Africa, we produce a lot of uranium that is needed for nuclear. And some of the countries that produce that uranium don't even have energy, because that uranium is exported raw to other countries who then use that uranium for their nuclear energy. So I don't know, that's my view, that there's no question, there's nuclear already here. So we must just get with the mix that will allow us to have enough energy to industrialize, to do everything that we need to do. The skills that are not utilized, there I would differ with you. I don't think we have enough. Secondly, it's clear to me that there is a problem even in the training. Why do engineers want to go and work for finance equity companies? Because engineers should be starting companies and producing the things that we are talking about, Transnet, producing the trains, producing this, depending on what engineer you are. So I think even our own attitude, that's why I was saying we should be trained not only to be job seekers, but also to have a mindset that says, I can be a job creator, I can be, because really for me, I think it's a waste of engineers. I don't think it's government that is sending engineers there. So I don't agree. And I would like those engineers to come out and do what engineers need to do. We need to train more of them. As a geophysicist, I expect a lot. In our continent, for instance, we hardly have geophysicists, and we struggle, and so people come from outside. And then the same people come and do our geological surveys, do all our things. Then they come tomorrow to say, can we prospect? And then they come tomorrow, they already know everything about it. They say, no, it's 1,000 million tons worth when it's a trillion million tons. So I think we need, the scientists need to innovate, engineers need to do what engineers need to do. unless you're saying there is something that is a constraint when you finish working, I think then we need to resolve what those constraints are for engineers and for other people to do what they need to do. If they are, that's what we need to resolve, because I suspect there may be constraints rather than just saying government looks at Russia for innovation. The other question of good governance. I think South Africa, because governance is not just, you look at all the different areas, our human rights things, our financial, our legislative powers, I think we have good governance in South Africa. But you are saying the government needs to govern. You said that. It's true. We need to strengthen. I think there are a number of challenges. For instance, we need to, because we have so many good institutions which we need, sometimes, I'll just take, you want to build a dam or a bridge or something. Sometimes it takes many years to get to building it. There are lots of studies that don't finish about environmental impact, this butterfly, that butterfly, which we love so much. I love them, but we need to finish those studies and get on and say whether we're going to build a dam or not, and what can be done about that. So we tend to take a long time, and then there are NGOs that may say, no, we don't want this dam. But those NGOs have 10 taps in the house, and the people who need the dam don't have a tap 5 kilometers away. And they are the ones who are saying, no, we don't want this dam, it will spoil the environment, it will spoil the landscape. But they don't look at what is that dam going to do. It's going to supply water to people who don't have water to drink, when they have more taps in their house than people. So I think some of those things we need to look at. But also, we need to strengthen our legal institutions within government, because the DA has recognized that they can use the judiciary to govern. They can stop a law, go to court, delay, or laws that are there, the way you apply them, they can be taken to court. So I think we need to increase our legal inside the government so that when we are taken to court, we have good legal systems. I know from Home Affairs, we were sweating with people who are illegal here, but when we want to send them back, it's a big problem. You know, somebody who may have killed somebody outside and ran here, and the country wants him because there is evidence that he killed his wife brutally. And our courts say no, unless that country writes to say they will not hang him if he's found guilty. You can't deport that person. What do? Do you put that person into the unsuspecting public of South Africa? So these are some of the things that are hindering governance. But also, we also have to be a bit more coherent and united. and have the relevant skills also at all levels, at local government. We must have engineers and other people to actually make sure that we don't depend on consultants all the time who take a lot of money and a lot of time before a project can even be done. So those are some of the constraints that we need. But good governance, I think there is. We need to just strengthen a lot of the things that we have. And we must remember we are a young democracy. We are less than 30 years. So a lot of things we try. If we see they don't work, we must then correct them. We're not like a 100-year democracy which has tested many things and had many amendments in their constitutions. So for me, I would say, but on the economic side, I think social side, you said education. For me, education, health is not just a social thing. It's an economic. Because if you are not healthy, how are you going to work? If you are not skilled, how are you going to work? So it's all linked as far as I'm concerned. And that's why I used to have a problem when people say education and health are spending ministries. They are bottomless pits. They are not. Because for the economy and for wealth creation for our people, you need the people to be skilled and healthy. Agriculture, you need them to eat. So all those things are linked to the economy. But our economy, the problem, is not transformed. The majority of the people in this country, which are black people, are not part of the economy. And that is not sustainable. And in the long term, it will not be good governance to have a situation like that. Because it's not sustainable to have a minority of the people controlling the economy, the majority not being part of the mainstream economy. It cannot be. But sometimes, as South Africans, we forget, we look at African countries. Some people visit me in Ethiopia and say, look at this city, Addis. And I say to them, yes, it may not be like Santino, but it's theirs. Theirs. Reparations. You will recall that in 2001, we had a conference in Durban, a world conference on slavery and colonialism and so on, racism. And that's where the decision was taken that there must be reparations. It was taken in this country by this government. I was Minister of Foreign Affairs at the time. I was the chair of that conference. The problem is, well, let me not start with the problem. The Caribbean, they've organized themselves for these reparations. And they've asked us to support them, which we do. But the Africans are not united in demanding the reparations. And you can understand why they are not united. I will not go into